treatment, or they're maybe called to a place like an ambulance or something where
Mm.
people are saying, "Oh, this person needs help." And there's an evaluator, and normally in the regular civil commitment process, a judge has to order that you as an individual exhibited XYZ behaviors and are there and have been declared by a judge to be a danger to yourself or others, and therefore will be committed um, until such time as they can treat you or figure out what you're going to do. That is a very narrow scope for an individual with individual live
So,
assessment. But in
so,
this context, it allows the police to go out there and say, anybody that we think is homeless, anybody that we think has mental health conditions or a drug problem, we can just decide to institute this person with the civil commitment
so
framework.
people could go into the hospital for, for treatment to get help and unknowingly be putting themselves in a police database.
Yes, 100%. When people go, so like say if somebody is evicted from their home, they could go to their local crisis center. They sign up to receive services from the local continuum of care. And a part of those services, maybe they want to prevent eviction. Maybe they want the emergency rental assistance program. Maybe they want help with their moving costs or to try to seek funds to put their stuff into storage. Maybe they're looking to come into emergency shelter while they find themselves another place. That information, because of this executive order, will be turned over to law enforcement agencies who may or may not determine that this person is a danger to themselves or others because they're now homeless and target them for civil commitment, for detention.
And
Without,
this something that didn't exist before.
no, this did not exist before. This was implemented in, I believe, June of 2025. So we're going on 7 months now. It's pretty dystopic because in America, you have due process. In order to be detained, you have to be suspected of a crime. You have to be charged with a crime, and there are very definite processes in order to restrict someone's liberties.
And this bypasses you actually having criminal activity.
Yes. So
Yeah.
this is a violation of what they call substantive due process and also procedural due process, because a person who's been detained is entitled to be charged with a crime, to face their accusers, to have a trial. You see what I'm saying? To be judged by a jury of their peers, whether or not they're actually doing something wrong. But because of this determination that homeless people are dangerous inherently, it's a similar thought process to saying that an immigrant is illegal inherently. Simply by having existed, a person is now illegal. What this does is it takes that kind of mental framework and transfers it over to homeless people, people with mental health disorders, and people with substance abuse disorders.
Do you have an idea of how many people, percentage wise, I suppose, who are homeless have mental health issues or don't have mental health issues?
To be honest, at any job that you would go to, if any person who has a job, there's a chance that there's a high likelihood that at least one of your coworkers is facing housing instability. They are, whether they're on the street or not, there are so many people in this country living in their cars, living in hotels, couch surfing. We're dealing with a huge systemic issue in this country where the majority of people are or know someone who is facing a problem with their housing. So when you say how many people does this affect, it's nearly everyone.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, yes, indirectly, I just realized what you're saying. But also, I'm trying to figure out how many people, how many homeless people do have mental health issues. Because I'm trying to figure out the
So
fair.
as
Fair.
far as the overlap between homelessness and mental health,
Hmm.
it's a chicken and egg issue. So we live in a society where there, half of people, half of women are on SSRIs. There are so many people dealing with mental health issues that it's just going to be the case that the majority of homeless people have some mental health condition.
Makes sense. Tell me about what you're doing in the process.
Well, what I've done is presented, I believe, 11 claims to the federal court in Greenbelt, Maryland, um, that are saying essentially that the executive order is unconstitutional. I'm seeking what's called declaratory relief. So I'm asking the federal court to declare that the executive order is unconstitutional and to enjoin Scott Turner, the Secretary of HUD, from implementing any um, actions based on the executive order.
When you do that, does that cover the entire executive order or just parts, or is it just kind of a short
Yes. Well, so it is possible that um, some of my claims may not be accepted, or I may lose some portion of the claim. But I believe that each and every one of these claims are valid, and that the executive order violates the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Eighth Amendment, the 13th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Civil Rights Act, and the Administrative Procedure Act. So, for a bunch of different reasons, the executive order is unconstitutional, and I only need to succeed in one of the 11 claims for the order to be declared unconstitutional.
What are the claims you're making?
Well, we talked a little bit about procedural due process and substantive due process. Those are two of the claims. Another of the claims is the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment. People have the right to equal protection under the law. Okay, that is regardless of their status, whether they are housed or unhoused, whether or not they have a mental health disorder, whether or not in order to be to have their liberties restricted, an individual must be given due process. They have to have the same protections. So one person who is doing well cannot just be arbitrarily detained. And so a person who's struggling with housing instability or struggling with their mental health must be given the same protection. Uh,
Okay.
there, there are Fifth Amendment privacy and liberty interests. So persons cannot be forced to divulge their health records. When someone comes to a behavioral health agency like the Department of Health and Human Services, which is where the continuum of care is, they are providing lots of information about their history, their substance abuse history, their mental health history. These records are protected under HIPAA, just like your STD results or your cancer results are. So the same way, and these all tie in together. So when you go to the doctor, if you have astigmatism or if you have a tumor and you're getting a biopsy, that is protected information. And if a person is receiving care under the continuum of care, those are medical records that have to be protected, and you cannot force a person to turn those over, especially in the context of detention. So when it comes to real crimes, we have what we know as Fifth Amendment rights. So you have the right to remain silent, to not incriminate yourself. But what this executive order does is essentially force people to incriminate themselves by revealing to law enforcement agencies that they are homeless. So it criminalizes homelessness and then forces homeless services agencies to turn over information about who's homeless.
What's the process been like from how did this start? How did you get into it?
Well, I live inside the continuum of care. And so I'm at a homeless shelter in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I am designated, for certain types of housing programs. I also have mental health conditions, and I'm receiving services for all of those. The county executive here and the company, Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless, that is partnered with the county to manage this facility and other permanent supportive housing facilities. they held a rally where they informed us that